You're going to have to figure out right from left scapula. So let's start off with its shape. First of all, hopefully everybody can see it's got a triangular shape, three-sided. Basically something like this. Okay? So if this was a right scapula, this would be the portion over here. No, this is not. This is a left. So this would be facing the armpit, this side of the clavicle. So this would be the lateral border or the axillary border. Axilla means armpit. Do you remember these things?
Yeah.
This is where this stuff comes into play. Okay, this is the medial border, and this faces the vertebral column, so this is also called the vertebral border. And then this is the superior border. So, hopefully everybody can see that this is the top. This is the top of the scapula, hence this is the superior border right there. And don't worry about it. If you're not getting every little thing that I'm saying right now, you go back and I'll come over and I'll help you with this stuff. So, don't worry about it if you're missing this or missing that. Okay, the next thing you need to know is the lateral side of the scapula compared to the medial side. And how do you determine that? Well, in my opinion, this little depression here is probably the most important thing. That depression there is called the glenoid fossa or the glenoid cavity, and this must face laterally in the anatomical position. Hence, this is the lateral side of the bone. This side is the lateral side of the bone, the side that has the glenoid cavity. So the border, the depression that faces laterally right here, glenoid cavity. So what's under it is the lateral or axillary border. And if this is the lateral border, this must be the medial border facing the vertebral column. Yes? Okay. This bone has two angles. Two angles. An angle is where two bones come together to form a point sometimes. It has other purposes too. It has a superior angle, and it has an inferior angle. Okay? Now you have to determine the front from the back of the bone. And very simply, this structure here is called the spine. This whole structure is the spine of the scapula. That has to be posterior. That has to be facing backwards in the anatomical position. The spine of the scapula faces posteriorly. At the end of the spine is the acromion. Acromion. This is at the end of the spine, right there. Acromion. And then anterior to the acromion is this pointy thing here. This thing here is called the coracoid. Coracoid process. It's anterior to the acromion.
What is that?
Coracoid process. You have you write it on the handout I gave you?
Yeah, okay. I have it.
Good. Okay. Okay, this U-shaped structure on the superior border, that's a notch. That's a good example of a notch. So this has one or two names. Since it's the only notch on the scapula, it's either called the scapular notch, and since it's on the superior aspect, it's also called the suprascapular notch. Either way.
Which one's the inferior angle?
At the bottom. Okay? And then lastly, there are all four fossas. There are four fossas on this bone. The first fossa I've already showed you. This is the glenoid fossa or the glenoid cavity. Then there are two facing posteriorly. There's one above the spine, and there's a fossa below the spine. The fossa above the spine is called the supraspinous fossa.
Where's that one? It's above? Okay.
Supra means above. Spinous means spine. Supraspinous fossa. And then below the spine is the infraspinous fossa. Both of those are posterior. And then when you flip the bone over anteriorly, this whole fossa here is called the subscapular fossa, and that must be anterior. And that's all the parts of the scapula. So once you've learned